Well, I'm Dennis Gould, mature letterpress printer, writer, become a printer. I've been involved with books most of my life and putting on poetry and jazz, poetry and folk music events, and generally involved in pamphleteering and publishing and book selling, and latterly in letterpress printing. I mean, I grew up like most people in a sort of council house in Burton-on-Trent. My dad was in the Royal Navy on minesweepers and was away in the Second World War. My mum took in washing and ironing to bring in some extra money. And there were actually kids in our avenue without shoes. It sounds ridiculous now, but I do remember one family, there were 10 children, and when they went to school, they walked to school without shoes. They were the exception. I mean, most people did have shoes in the 1940s, but there was very little money. This is some children's blues. Some children live in a home of their own, and some children live in no home, and some children live in children's homes, and some children's homes are no home at all. Some children eat garlic bread, some children eat rye, some children eat no bread at all. Some children eat no bread at all. Some children play music, some children play the fool, some children play football, some children play pool, some children play piano, some children play violin, some children play cello, and some children play sax and mandolin. Some children live in a home of their own, and some children live in children's homes, and some children's homes are no home at all. And when I came to Stroud, I went to a local printer, Evergreen Press, John Grice, and he printed a postcard poem for me. And he said, would I like to have a go and do it myself, because he was too busy. He had 2 cases of type, Times Roman, 12-point, 10-point Times Roman, and a compositor's stick. You put the individual letters into the stick, hold it at a 45-degree angle, and build up line by line. The type is in this rectangular chase, and the type is locked up with these little vices called coins, so they keep the type absolutely solid, and there's another one there to tighten it that direction. And he said, well, have a go. So I did, and it took me 7 hours to set 14 lines because I kept dropping the individual letters. Anyway, I did it, and I printed about 150 copies, and I guess I got hooked on it. And although I'd been around print shops, you know, until you actually have a go at a craft, you don't realise how simple it is. But of course, it's the experience, the practice that makes perfect. I mean, it's probably 200 or 300 years old, that design, and comes from a completely different typeface, but it's so beautiful. And although it's only a small part of the layout, it sets off the words, I think. 2 weeks later, I bought a press and some type, and in a sense, never looked back. But the joy was for me, being a writer, I was doing the whole job, you know, from the writing to the printing and the publishing, as it were. I like the words to bleed off the edge of the page, you know, which sets off the design, really. When you're beginning, you're very much working with other people's ideas as well as your own, and trying to find your very own voice. And often it's a process of unlearning, you know, unlearning what one has learnt at school or college or through study, and finding your own voice. I think, I mean, for me, being a printer, having a print shop is just an aid to bringing out poems and words related to ideas, you know, to the content. So I'm not interested per se in fine printing, although I respect that. Whereas most letterpress printers often have difficulty, scrabble around what to print, whereas I have the opposite issues of having lots of content to print and just making the time to do it. Sounds of the blues echoing thoughts, street music, street musicians playing sax and accordion, the smell of rosemary and the taste of garlic, and the death of the military machine, and the birth of the child and the rebirth of wonder, and the death of the security machine, and the games of chance and the games of chess and the games of love and the games of lust, and meetings of new lovers and old friends, leaving of children and parents, and the celebration of birth and death and grandparents, and the celebration of poems and poets, and the voices of the heart and the spirit of the mind, and the silent song of the soul, and the dervish dance of the body, and the desire to rock and roll, and music and books by the bed, and restlessness of the intellect, and madness and insanity rule, mutual aid and the fool, ideas and imagination. Ideas and imagination.